arriving in Kathmandu Valley is still like entering another age. In the valley, 4 magnificent sister cities were built under the reign of the local Mewar kings. All 4 have central squares that are still testimony of a rich cultural and architectural heritage. Unfortunately, the urban jungle mentality is also spreading here. Ugly new concrete and brick buildings are rising up all the time. Meanwhile, the old temples and statues that made this valley so beautiful are giving way to the teeth of time. In Nepal, I worked in a developing project that aimed at growing, extracting and selling medicinal and aromatic plants. And we started off with 8 trial farms which were scattered through the country. So I developed an interest in the growing side and as well as the extracting side. And after my years in Nepal, I had the idea of doing something similar in Europe. One of the best starting points for the discovery of Kathmandu Valley is still the ancient stupa of Swayambhunath. A stupa is a Buddhist monument built as a dome on top of relics. On top of the dome is a tower, painted with the stern eyes of the Buddha. Every morning at daybreak, hundreds of faithful come here to pray, offer to the gods, chant or prostrate themselves before the Buddha. As in all ancient cultures, burning aromatic plants is a way to communicate with the world of the gods. Like the deities themselves, aromas are intangible and can move freely in the universe, unrestricted by human limitations. Daily, juniper, cypress and sometimes jatamansi are fumigated to please or pacify the gods. Although thousands of incense sticks go up in smoke every day. The Aum from the famous mantra Aum Mani Padme Hum is found on prayer wheels, carvings and paintings. Aum, the jewel in the heart of the lotus, Hum, sums up Buddhist and Hindu philosophy that truth and peace are to be found by extinguishing craving and by seeking purity of mind through meditation and righteous action. The deep resonant Aum is the universal sound throughout time and also reflects the stillness of pure being. It is chanted 1,000 times over here. From the religious atmosphere of Swayambhunath, I walk into the profane chaos of Hassanto. It is here where the commercial heart of Kathmandu city beats. With some luck and perseverance, virtually everything can be found in Assam. The latest television sets from Japan are brought into the bazaar on carriages pushed by coolies. The most interesting aspect in the bazaar, in my view, is of course the tremendous display of herbs and spices, originating from all over the Indian subcontinent. Here one finds all necessary ingredients for curries and masalas, the typical Himalayan cardamoms or saffron from Kashmir. Due to its high price, the latter is often falsified. The so-called Nepalese saffron happened to be made up with safflower petals. I decide to take a ride through the Assam Bazaar on a rickshaw. Bim is only 16 years old. Although I felt ashamed at the idea of such a young boy, probably half my weight, pulling me through the streets, it proved to be an interesting ride. there is no sewage system here, the smell of decay putrefies the narrow streets. At the end of the ride, I asked Bim how much he earns. A good day brings in 300 rupees, he says, out of which 100 goes to the rickshaw owner. This means a net pay of $3 per day. He is happy with my 100 rupees note, but also relieved to get go of a heavy passenger. Nowadays, traffic in Kathmandu is an absolute chaos, although a benign one. One rarely drives more than 50 kilometers per hour. If accidents happen, they usually don't cause more than material damage. Imagine what would happen if everybody drove Western speeds here. The one traffic participant to evade is the occasional holy cow. Killing a cow might cost you 20 years in jail in this country. This city was not built for cars. Nowadays, traffic has become so dense in this enclosed valley that air pollution is often worse than in Mexico City. The following day, I meet Carol Dunham. Carol is a social anthropologist. Through her work, she became involved with aromatic herbs and eventually set up a herb business in Nepal.
We're slowly working with some of our different ingredients.
The plants are collected in the remote mountain district of Humla, where they are taken to Kathmandu and processed into herb pillows. One of the problems, Carol says, is breaking into the chain of middlemen to make sure the herb collectors get a fair price for their produce. So mostly now you're making these herb pillows, or have you, because at one time when we were in contact you talked about massage oils and other things.
We're working on those. We're working on those. We can show you some of those. But yeah.
At Carol's company, I am received by Tenzing, a trained herbal doctor from Humla. He shows us a bag full of jatamansi from last year's harvest. Filling the bags is very labor-intensive and gives a job to several women from Humla. This combination of ancient herbal knowledge, fair trade and creative marketing has found its way into Western markets. Carol and her colleagues are working daily on new product ideas, such as herbal teas and aromatic massage oils. This is the company that is at the origin of a lot of activities in aromatic plants in Nepal. The government-owned herbs production and processing company just outside Kathmandu. The company enhanced the distillation of wintergreen, an aromatic perennial shrub found in the Nepalese Himalayas. Its main aromatic component is methyl salicylate, which gives the typical odor to many massage balms. The aromas are extracted by means of steam distillation, which is done in this distillation unit. Steam is produced in a boiler where previously distilled and sun-dried wintergreen leaves are used as a source of energy. As the steam passes through the wintergreen branches in the still, it breaks open the plant cells that contain the aromatic components. As these are volatile, both steam and aromatic components move upward and pass in this tube to be led to a condenser. Cool water is led to the condenser and it makes the steam and volatile aromas condense into liquid form. The liquefied aromatic components are oily in nature and make up what is called the essential oil, stemming from the French word essence or essence. Usually the essential oil floats on top of the condensed steam, but in this case of wintergreen, called Gaultheria fragrantissima by its botanical name, its essential oil is heavier than water, so it needs to be tapped off from below. After 2.5 hours of distillation time, 200 kilos of wintergreen branches yield about 1 liter of essential oil, which explains why many pure essential oils are so costly. In the south of Nepal lies a narrow stretch of flatlands that form part of the Ganges plain. The area breathes an atmosphere that feels much more like India than Nepal. About 50 million years ago, the Indian subcontinent, adrift on the Earth's mantle, collided with the Asian mainland, giving rise to the Himalayas. We are just at the edge of the first hills here. Roadside restaurants serve North Indian style snacks. One finds the strangest means of transport in this country. Until 40 years ago, the Terai was largely covered with subtropical forests. The area was inhabited by Tarus, an animistic people who lived in close harmony with nature. Then came the eradication of malaria, which paved the way for a large influx of settlers from India and the Nepalese hills. The jungles were cut down and agricultural development started. As a result, the Tarus were integrated in the Hindu caste system, as low caste of course. In some areas, Taru culture still survives. Tarus traditionally live together in large houses that are kept very tidy. One of their main activities is fishing. Women fish with handmade nets in small pools in the countryside. Nepalganj, in the southwest of the country, is the hub for flights to remote airports scattered throughout the mountains of western Nepal. From there we will fly again in northeastern direction to Jufal, the only airport in Dolpo district. Nepalganj has the busy atmosphere of a border town. Fresh turmeric and ginger can be bought here. A boy sells fresh coriander leaves. Barber shops also offer a head massage here. My masseur clearly enjoyed treating a European. I am not so sure anymore after he almost squeezes my eyeballs out. The crowd that gathered to watch the spectacle had a good laugh though. After a splash with the local tonic water, I am dismissed. Somehow the link with Nepal always remained. I went back every other year almost. In the 4 years that I lived there, I crisscrossed almost the whole country. But there were a few areas that I had never been to. And one of them was Dolpo, which was a forbidden place for foreigners in those years, because it was close to Tibet, and the Nepalese didn't want any trouble with the Chinese who occupied Tibet and who still do. And I have been told that in Dolpo, above 4,000 meter altitude, you find jatamansi, which is called Nard in English. And it's a herb which has been known since antiquity and which was very valuable, somehow in the line of frankincense and myrrh. And it was, for instance, found in the grave of Tutankhamun, the Egyptian pharaoh who died more than 3,000 years ago. And the only place on earth where you find it is in the Himalayan area. And this is very strange. It means that somehow in ancient times already there was a trade network which made sure that aromatic materials from the Himalaya ended up in the Mediterranean area. And this plant was already described several times in the Bible also. You know, the story of Mary Magdalene when she anointed the feet of Jesus. She did that with an ointment based on nard. And St. John writes it somewhere, you know, then Mary took a pound of nard and she anointed the feet of Jesus and the whole room smelled of it. Now, this herb has been almost forgotten during the ages, but the only place where it grows is the Himalaya, and Dolpo is an area where we can find it. And I think that's a good extra reason to go there. Getting a place on one of the small aircraft is not easy. Because lack of aircraft and poor management, many flights are cancelled. People sometimes wait for days on end, having nothing to do but watch young birds being fed in the airport hall. Finally, we can leave. The Canadian Twin Otter aircraft is specially geared for short mountain flights and landing on difficult terrain. Off to Dolpo at last. Soon the first snow-covered mountains come in sight. I'm curious at how life will be in the villages below. Jufal was described to us as a cartoon airport. It surely was. I had never experienced a landing like this one. Finally, I meet my good friend Rawal again. It feels good to be in fresh mountain air after the heat of the Terai.
So we have to work here on forest-based products, so that local community in this area, they can get some kind of idea, so that they can benefit in a better way. You see, in Dolpa, basically people are using this non-timber forest products from here, from decades. But just they are selling their crude herbs or crude drugs, let's say. And they face, you see how difficult it is to come here, to go from here.
Yeah, normally it takes 3 weeks walking. Huh?
Yeah.
We flew in 45 minutes.
Yeah, you flew in even less than 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the bulky thing, which is really high volume. They have to carry from here. And so imagine how much they get, even though there's an enormous quantity they produce, they collect every year. But to transport this thing to
where the markets are.
Where the market, like in border towns and to India, is really difficult. So that our idea is here is try to do some kind of value addition. We are not here to as a manager, but as a facilitator. So that as we are here to support in giving some technical inputs.
At last we can commence our trek. Here in Lower Dolpo, at an altitude of 2,500 meters, women and children have started harvesting barley. Like harvesting, threshing is still a manual operation. In the mountains, rivers are a lifeline. They provide irrigation water to grow wheat in winter and rice in summer. Also, they are the source of energy that drive the many small water mills scattered in the river valleys. Here, Rawal's project supports a small experimental farm to grow Indian valerian and pyrethrum. Valerian is a well-known sedative that also has several local uses. Local people dry and powder the roots and put them in an amulet which is hung on a necklace. It is said to pacify the mind. A German pharmaceutical company produces a sleep-inducing medicine made from Indian valerian extract. In the mountains, one has to be inventive to cross a river. This pull carriage takes us across the Beri, one of the great rivers flowing through the Nepalese hills. At this point, where the wide Suligat flows into the Beri, one can notice how eroded topsoil is carried away after rainfall. Having a good wash and a shave at the village tap feels good in the evening sun. The next morning we take a northern route along the thunderous Suligat River on our way to Phoksindu Lake. We arrive to what looks like a planted field of lila-colored flowers. In fact, it is wild-growing Salvia murcroftiana, one of the many species of sage found throughout the world. Its shape and even its smell is reminiscent of the musky fragrance of clary sage, grown for its essential oil in southern France. Here, villagers eat its stem as a raw vegetable, a welcome addition to an otherwise monotonous diet. On and on it goes, following the Suligat upwards to its source at Phoksindu Lake. By the side of the river, we walk through beautiful conifer forests. Many Cupressus torulosa, the tall-growing Himalayan cypress, embellish the scenery. The essential oil of cypress branches is used in aromatherapy to improve blood circulation in the arteries. The strong roots of the cypress are capable of breaking huge rocks, whereas pioneer plants grow on the mosses that cover the crevices. Then we stop to have lunch in a tea shop by the side of the river. Fresh spinach from the garden should give us vigor for the long way up. Outside, the lady of the house is preparing rakshi. Rakshi is distilled from fermented food grains. It is best drunk lukewarm and fresh from the still. Its taste is similar to that of Japanese sake. After the meal and drink, I feel ready to attack the next upward climb. We discover interesting plants all the time, like Distillaria kamai jasme, which is used in Tibet for making paper. By the side of the river, a new house is under construction. Stones, mud and wood are the only building materials, and all are found locally. Also, the bridges we cross are still built according to ancient technology. The villagers of Riki have joined hands to build this bridge and make their village more accessible. The poles that decorate the bridge are cut from the Taxus baccata tree, an evergreen found in the Himalaya above 2000 meters altitude. Its reddish wood resists well to humidity. Interestingly, in the last years, the leaves of the taxus tree have been extracted for a new drug used in cancer therapy. After crossing the bridge, we walk up to Rike village. Not many foreigners have come here yet, and we are given a shy welcome. Very soon it appears almost everyone is coughing here. As cooking is done on open wood fires inside, houses are filled with smoke, and this certainly doesn't help. The next morning we can taste a local breakfast, flat bread called chapati topped with chili sauce. Soon people start queuing up for medicine, and Rawal tries to help as much as he can, using herbal medicine preparations. Most diseases here originate from unhygienic living conditions, and improved hygiene is the clue to better health. Nevertheless, it is sad to see that valuable herbs are either not used or sold in crude form to Indian traders. This viola species, growing near the village, looks a lot like Viola odorata, used in Europe to produce cough remedies. The Himalayas are home to several ancient varieties of roses, like this four-petaled Rosa sericea, that produces bright red edible fruits in autumn. The path along the river is sometimes treacherous, especially where landslides have blocked an easier passing. But then our climb is rewarded by an unusual find, Himalayan morels that will flavor our supper tonight.
Together with egg omelette tonight, huh?
For the evening.
These wild Asparagus racemosus shoots are an important ingredient in Chinese and Tibetan medicine. Villagers too are fond of them. On the path I meet a young girl who wants to show me her school. I enjoy a game that I haven't done since my own primary school days. Then the makeshift school bell goes, and the children are asked to stand in the military lineup.
Hazard. Safar.
From very young age, the children at this school are learning Nepalese and English, besides their own native Kampa language that is similar to Tibetan. Several children are affected by skin diseases, and I try to help using thyme and chamomile essential oils. Thyme oil is very disinfectant, whereas chamomile is excellent for skin regeneration. As the pupils' parents are poor villagers, the school has to rely on minimal school fees and donations. Consequently, facilities are minimal as well. Children sleep together on the floor in a dormitory room. This way, infections spread easily. Quite a difference from the pampered environments we grew up. As we go higher up, the sky turns dark blue. A cold wind is blowing from the north. The scenery makes me think of the southern Alps, where the mistral can blow ferociously too. The calcareous soil here is similar too. Excellent growing conditions for this fragrant thyme, Thymus linearis, and wild oregano. Also a lot of plantain is found. The North American Indians called it the white man's footstep, as it spread over the plains because of its seed clinging to the colonists' shoes. Along the path, we come across several avalanches that came down from the mountains to the riverbanks, destroying all vegetation on their way. This one has created a natural bridge over the river, as an evocation of Paul Simon's Bridge Over Troubled Water. Suddenly I notice a woman crossing the avalanche with her cows. Swiftly she takes them to the other side of the river. People have to be inventive in the mountains and a little reckless too. We are approaching Pugmo, the first Buddhist village on our trek. This Buddhist cordon stands as a welcoming edifice before the village. It might contain the bones of a respected monk called Lama. Looking at Pugmo lying beyond, I have a feeling that something different can be expected here. Smoke comes up from near what appears to be the biggest house in the village. Juniper branches are fumigated, and I am told that a ceremony is going on in the temple inside. Afterwards, the head Lama explains that the ceremony was held to abide bad spirits, as a lot of animals died in Pugmo recently. The people of Pugmo, as in other villages of Dolpo, still practice the ancient Bön religion. Bön was practiced in this area before Buddhism came, but is now closely intermingled with it. It is an animistic religion related to the shamanism of Inner Siberia. Ancient symbols are used, like the reverted swastika. Sheltered from the world outside, without roads, electricity, television, or even radio, Pugmo is a village where life goes on as it must have for hundreds of years here. Naturally, people are surprised to see a Westerner entering their village. Going upstairs has quite a different meaning here, as much of daily life happens on the rooftops. The Lama had told me that I would be welcome in this house. Soon afterwards, a woman starts making preparations for the evening meal. It feels good to be with these people, near the hut, I enjoy the simple evening meal called sampa together with our hosts and my good friend Rawal. Early in the morning, before the sunlight reaches the village, the yaks are leaving for their pastures. As the first sun rays falls into the courtyard, a cow is milked to prepare butter tea. After churning the milk, liquid butter is added to tea from the highlands. Together with a fair doses of salt, it makes butter tea. Although strange and unbecoming to our taste, people drink butter tea throughout the day here. It is a fortifying drink that one learns to appreciate in harsh mountain conditions. Life goes its leisurely pace in Pugmo, on the rooftops during the day and inside at night. Stress seems a word from another planet. We are introduced to the local herbal doctor, who shows an interest in our aromatic oils. He promises to take us to his home across the hill. The head lama wanted to go along, saying, "This walk up will purge our souls." Herbal doctors are called amshi in these mountains. They often live in peaceful enclosures, away from village life. Again we are given a hearty welcome. The smoldering fire is blown up. Chang, the local beer brewed from fermented millet, is served. The lady of the house prepares a dough from buckwheat flour, and soon a thick pancake is baking above the fire. Buckwheat makes an invigorating, healthy food that is considered to be a blood purifier. The amshi shows us sunpati, a small rhododendron species that grows above 4,000 meter altitude. Its yellow flowers exhale a fresh flowery scent. Then he goes on to prepare a medicine for us in the traditional manner. Many of the old formulations are written up in ancient books. Several ingredients are crushed to powder. Meanwhile, the amshi pronounces a mantra that should add spiritual blessing to the compound. He says it will help us to get across the pass to Poxindo, as one can get altitude sickness there. Today we have to cross a pass of 4,000 meters in order to get to our final destination, Poxindo Lake, where we hope to find jatamansi. As we get higher, juniper becomes the dominant shrub in the landscape. This variety is called Juniperus indica. Although the berries aren't ripe, they already harbor the distinctive flavor that is added in the preparation of gin. In aromatherapy, juniper oil is used against rheumatic pains. Across the valley is the village of Murwa, a lone settlement where people subsist on millet, potatoes and yak produce. Now the path becomes steeper as we approach the tree line. As the path snakes up, a couple of yaks come down the same way. The high-altitude cow is the beast of burden here, but also provides milk and occasionally meat to the villagers. All of a sudden, the most beautiful waterfall I have ever seen in these mountains comes in sight. With a loud, thunderous roar, the Soligat throws itself down for hundreds of meters. The American writer Peter Matthiessen, who visited Dolpo in the early 70s, wrote about this place. I wonder if anywhere on earth there is a river more beautiful than the upper Soligat in early autumn. Although it is springtime now, I can fully appreciate his feelings. Now only a few hundred meters remain to the pass. The thin air makes me breathe deeply to get enough oxygen. But soon I am rewarded with a view of Proxindo Lake, still at a couple of hours walking distance. There it is, the turquoise Proxindo Lake in its full glory. This is the boundary of Inner Dolpo, where the stone desert commences. Beyond these mountains lies Tibet, still at 1 week walking distance. Before the lake is the village of Rigmo. My first impression is that of an Indian pueblo in New Mexico, but more intact. Even the people on the rooftops have some resemblance to North American Indians. In the distance, I see some people plowing their land. I decide to walk down to them to have a closer look. Whereas in the south of Dolpo, harvesting has already started. Here, at 3,600 meter altitude, people have just started plowing their land to grow buckwheat and potatoes. In the short summers at this altitude, people cannot survive on these crops alone, although it is their staple food. They trade potatoes against food grains from lower-lying areas. Many of the men work as laborers outside Dolpo during the cold season. Describing Rigmo, Matthiessen wrote, "Rigmo looks like a fortress in a tale, for the walls are built up like battlements by winter bushwood stacked on the flat roofs." Now, at the end of winter, fuel wood is almost gone, but the impression of a fortress remains. The flags on top of the houses send prayers to the gods. About these prayer flags there is a Zen allegory. Hu Neng, the 6th Chan Buddhist patriarch of China, asked to his pupils, "Is it the flag that moves or the wind?" The answer was, "Neither, for it is your mind that moves." In the village, similar household activities go on as in Pugmo. The yaks are resting in the courtyard, waiting to take another load. These strong animals have been called the trucks of the Himalayas. Since ancient times, salt from Tibet was traded against food grains from the plains, over the high passes of the Himalaya. The Kanjiroba mountains reflect in the calm lake as the sun rises to the zenith. This old Bun monastery is located on an outcrop overlooking the lake, an ideal place for meditation. In the afternoon, the atmosphere heats up and one can sense that spring is in the air. The only leaf tree in this tree frontier area is the birch. Its leaves are just unrolling for the short summer season. The bark is used in paper making and as a protection against the rain in house building. I still hope to find jatamansi, which supposedly grows on these high meadows above the lake. A local guide knows where to find the roots that are collected in autumn here and sold to Indian traders. Finally, we find the cradle of the sacred Nard of ancient times. I can only hope that Rawal's project will be successful in maintaining jatamansi in its natural environment and providing a sustainable revenue to the collectors by distilling its valuable essential oil. Somehow, it seems like finding jatamansi after this long journey reveals the true meaning of Buddhism to me, if only for a few seconds nearby the still waters of this beautiful lake. As Peter Matthiessen wrote, the journey to Dolpo, step by step and day by day, is the jewel in the heart of the lotus, the Tao, the way, the path, but no more so than small events of days at home.